You're hanging with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM.
I want my picks back, and I want David Putnam.
And on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All my picks back, and I want David Putnam just because I feel like it.
You're out of your mind.
Yeah, I am. Haven't I proved that already?
Streaming live on YouTube, Instagram, and the X platform.
Josh Hennig back here on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, shout out to Big Alan Violent. He totally was picking up what I was putting down, and we'll just leave it at that. Let's get it back to the Eagles right now. Joining us on the phone line as promised, Chris Franklin, NJ.com. NJ Advanced Media covers the Eagles and the NFL. He joins us right now to give us the latest on the Eagles. Preseason game number 1 in the books, back at training camp today. Vic Fangio spoke this morning. We'll get Chris Franklin's impressions and more on the Eagles as he joins us now here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Chris, welcome into the Saturday show. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Josh. How you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. So I got to start with this with you because I got to be honest. I don't know if you were as surprised as I was. I was very surprised that for a guy like Vic Fangio, who has been known to throw players, say, under the bus at times, for him to be as understanding as he was about Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson today.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things where I think he notices what the cards he's been dealt so far, and it is just one preseason game. You know, it is one preseason game. It didn't go as well as I think he'd hoped to be. A lot of vanilla looks defensively, but I think he's got to build his guys up confidence-wise. You know, he's been around for a while. He knows he can slam them down and be very frank, but he also knows when he needs to build those back up. And those guys are probably taking their performances harder than what Fangio says. Pretty much like he's doing the Will Smith thing, where he's putting his hands out saying, "You see, this is what happened." So and I think he knows that Bennett's going to be playing a role in this now. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm not too shocked, but it's one of those things that they're probably harder on themselves than anything he probably has.
I find it fascinating though because, you know, Chris, I remember like I remember what he said about Bryce Huff last training camp. You know, he mentioned Jordan Davis needed to lose weight. You know, this is a guy in Fangio that he'll come out and tell you, right? He'll be like, you know, yeah, like remember he said with the linebacker, he's like, well, you know, how he's gonna do what how he's gonna do. Like this guy ain't afraid, but yet he sits there and says, well, it was a good learning experience for these guys. I'm just like, really? Like you didn't rip them? I mean, I got to tell you, Chris, like I'm watching the game on Thursday night. I'm like, man, Keely Ringo is taking some horrible angles, and Adoree Jackson, he's getting shredded by like the 5th and 6th receivers on the Bengals. I thought Fangio would have a little bit more fire and brimstone than being the understanding grandfather.
Well, I think that happened during the film session.
Okay.
Like, what are you guys doing? Like publicly, it's like, and also it's been a couple days removed, so he doesn't probably want to dwell on what happened in that game, because I have a feeling like he may have been a little bit too blunt if it was the day after that. I think he may do that, and again, like publicly, he's like, all right, just move on and just go on from that. But yeah, the thing, the closeout speed that Adoree Jackson showed when he's playing off coverage wasn't great. The fact that Keely Ringo didn't throttle down and set himself up to try to make that tackle and chase past him, that wasn't great at all. So yeah, it's publicly he's going to make even kill, say okay, and use these joint practices coming up to be the litmus test. But yeah, he probably wasn't. He probably addressed it, and I'm being very conservative, saying probably addressed it very sternly during the film sessions.
Chris Franklin from NJ.com joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. See Franklin News on the Twitter X platform and on Instagram. The other guy who got to speak a little bit today was Jakorian Bennett, the new acquisition for the Eagles. I know that some people out there still might not know that he's the guy the Eagles traded for, but his claim to fame, Chris, was actually the opposite of Keely Ringo. While Keely Ringo struggled against Jamar Chase on Thursday night, Bennett's claim to fame is that he handled Chase last year. So what are your perspectives on the new Eagles corner?
Well, first off, to be able to get him in that deal, I mean, it sounds like a broken record. Kudos to Howie Roseman for able to swing that. Even though I like Thomas Booker, I think he's a good guy and everything. And that piece, they just have so many pieces there that was going to be tough to keep him in the roster. So to address a position of need, which we saw Thursday is definitely a position of need, I think that's big. And I look at him. The only question I have is I thought he tailed off a bit, and more recently he had that good season a couple of years ago. But now I want to see what he does now in this system, and I think he has some really good traits in there. Physically, I like in characteristics, talent-wise. I think he has a speed to match with everybody else. He's not as handsy when the stuff I saw when I went to look back at some of the games he played. Not as handsy as say Ringo was before, like as Ringo is. So I like what he could potentially do. It's a matter of just getting him up to speed now, learning how the communication and the calls, and that's going to take some time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see, when you start looking at this in Saturday's upcoming game Saturday, if maybe there's a miscommunication, that something doesn't happen right, or during practice, maybe there's something that's not said or communicated well, and they'll fix that stuff. But overall, I like what he can do, and they need somebody to fill that CB2 role, because if you don't have anybody to do that, and you're forcing Quinyon Mitchell to go travel with somebody, it's going to wear him down as the season progresses. I mean, even teams can just do that and go, okay, we're going to send somebody in motion just to try to wear him down, so that in the second half, late in the game, maybe he's tired and stuff like that. So it's a domino effect from there on out. So they need Bennett to step up and be the guy, and they just need somebody to say, well, and claim this position in the next week or two.
Well, to me, it's not just what you just said about Quinyon Mitchell. It's the fact that who's on your schedule. Okay, if all things are adding up, right? The Cowboys, they got 2 stud receivers. If Terry McLaurin's contract gets done, that's 2 stud receivers. The Rams got multiple stud receivers. The Bucs got multiple stud receivers. I think Addison might be back by the time Week 7 comes around. So that's the Vikings having 2 stud receivers. It's not like this schedule is full of a bunch of teams with 1 good receiver. There's a lot of teams on the Eagles' schedule that second corner could make or break some of these games.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you mentioned that's a good point by you too, because you look at that schedule. It's a murderer's row to begin with, and you don't want to put too much pressure. You don't want to have to put DeJean out on the outer edge, even though he could do that. Now you're starting to put yourself out questions on the back end, so you don't know what to do with that. It just throws everything out of whack, and we know how symbiotic that when it comes to all 3 levels of the defense. If you're not getting the pressure up front, from those guys, and the linebackers can hold, but then you got the weak links in the secondary, good luck. Now you're giving up explosive plays. If you have to shift everything around, you're taking away what you did well last year, and then now you're starting to question what's going to happen long term. So yeah, they absolutely need Bennett, Ringo. Unfortunately, I'm taking Jackson out personally. I think it's between Bennett and Ringo now, because I think Jackson he's just lost a step. And the fact is now something you have to look at now is, because he's a veteran, is if he continues to not play as well, is he going to be on the roster week 1? Because you don't want to fully guarantee that contract if he's not playing well. Even though it's like $1.35 million or something like that, you may not want to pay that, guarantee that. It's not a lot, and they're trying to do extension. So there's a whole lot that is cascading off this one competition.
What about Eli Ricks? What is how does he factor into all this? Because I know that there's a lot of people out there that there's a lot of Eagle fans, Chris, that like the idea of Eli Ricks, even though we've never seen him actually do it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I'm one of those guys who thinks Eli deserves a shot, and I'm shocked he wasn't really thrown into the rotation as is, just to see it. Because to me, especially if you're going through this whole youth movement, you've kept him around for a few years. Why not see what he can do and put him in a legitimate thing? I like his physical traits. I like the way that he plays. And that one is, yes, he has been inconsistent, but I think that also some of that comes with not getting the experience against some of these top, better receivers as well, too, a lot of times with the backups. I just want to see what he can do, and I think he can do a decent job there. But the fact that he's not being thrown in there, something tells me maybe they're seeing something else that it may be withholding him. And I know they tried him in the slot before as a nickel corner, and that much. I really want to see him really take part in that battle, but yeah, I don't foresee him all of a sudden coming. It'd be a nice dark horse thing to see, but I just don't see him being in there unless barring an injury.
NJ.com Eagles and NFL writer and reporter Chris Franklin joining us here on Hanging with Hennig. Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, we are streaming live on YouTube and X in the Dr. Squatch virtual studios. Chris, let's say on the defense here, because a lot of fans also have been clamoring about Cooper DeJean. Obviously, Cooper has become a very, very popular player in Philadelphia in a short time. But based on Vic Fangio's previous comments, at least my interpretation is that the Eagles are not necessarily looking for him to be the safety. They're looking for him to be kind of like a joker player, like a multiple weapon all over the field, and that they're evaluating to see who else can play other positions around Cooper DeJean. Not that Cooper DeJean is necessarily like going to be the starting safety week one. Is that correct?
I mean, I was told a song that Cooper DeJean was not a safety. He's just a guy who was going to lock down your number one. But I don't know. Maybe Vic hasn't heard that or whatever. I don't know if you've seen that. But I look at it sometimes, and I know we're talking about like when it came to competition, but sometimes you just need to get your 11 best players on the field, what have you. And Cooper is that. So in order to have him on that field, because in a way, I think the way that was set up perfectly, if you do use him as a safety, is he's basically going to be in the slot sometimes, because we know base-wise a lot of teams use 3 wide receivers to begin with. And so if you use one of that, you use Reed Blankenship to be like your midfield guy that overlooks and doesn't let anybody get behind you, and then you just put him back down into the slot which he played last year as a nickel corner. That's where he plays well. So I think as an interior guy, he can do really, really well. Not to say that he can't play outside, because I think he'd play that well as well too. I think he's more valuable inside. Let him be close to the line of scrimmage. Let him be able to use him as a blitzer once in a while. Let him help the team, and we've seen it beforehand, help and run defense to be able, because we know he's a sure tackler. So I wouldn't be adverse to seeing him at safety. But the thing is going to be, he's not, since teams don't really run a lot of base stuff. Besides, if you're not playing like in the AFC North, you're not playing the Ravens all the time with those two that use a lot of 2 tight ends sets. So even if he did, you're not going to see it that much. You're going to see more 3, 4, 5 wide receivers. So he may just be in the slot to begin with. So who knows? Like it's almost like you see him a lot in that position when he played last year. So I wouldn't mind him playing safety, but also moving back to nickel as well too. So he'll be on the field no matter what. They're trying to get their best 11 players they can on that field.
For those who don't remember what Chris Franklin is talking about, this is the little ditty from last year that CJ GJ dropped that was caught by the NFL Films crew. I'll never forget that. That was so, and then I love the camera catching Cooper DeJean's look at his face. He's like, "What the?"
And that was CJGJ as a whole. Sometimes you're just walking by and you're like, "What was that?" But it was funny. like that, I will say this: he is one of the guys I'm really going to miss. I mean, say what you want about him, but he was always entertaining to see whatever's going to do. I'm going to miss that guy.
So,
but yeah.
Can I just say this? And listen, Chris, you cover the team every day. So if I misrepresent CJ in this way, and what I'm going to say, just shoot me down, okay? But I watched that interview with him on the Pivot. And I don't know if you watched the whole thing or not, like, or if you just saw clips, but like some of the dialogue that him and Ryan Clark had, I got to be honest, there's a part of me that's actually glad he's not here, only because of the fact that dude seems to interpret things very differently than other people. And I don't know if he is as mature in his social awareness, shall I say, than he thinks he is, if that makes sense.
I think this is a guy who wears his emotion on his sleeve, and that's a lot. And then sometimes he'll sit back and take stock of it and go, okay, yeah, I'll just do that, and then he'll change that. I think he's one of those types of guys, because he initially hears something like, wait, what's this? What's that? And then it's like, okay, yeah, maybe it's right, what have you. So I think that's what I got to when hearing him in the 2 stints he was here. That's the sort of sense I got. That the thing I'm kind of wanting to see and a little worried about, if you're looking in terms of team, is sometimes you need a guy like that who just like, you know what, and you need a guy, a spark plug, or a guy with a personality like that to mix up and liven up the locker room and on the field as well too, because he was even though it's interesting to say he says some stuff here and there, but when he goes there, you need that spark. And you're looking at who on this defense be that guy. Nolan Smith has the chance to do that. I see him more as like a BG type guy who do that. But you're looking around, you don't see like that that wild card that you have to worry about, not only as in the, okay, I can't throw the ball across the middle of the field because he's looming, but also like I don't want to go across the field because I don't know what he's going to say, what he's going to hit, or what have you. So that's something I want to see who develops into that guy.
Well, I think that's where the final thought here on the safety position is. We have been kind of looking at this position here on 97.3 ESPN as kind of a three-man race in terms of Sidney Brown, Drew Makuba, and then Tristan McCollum is still hanging out there because he's the one guy who actually knows probably that position the best after he got the playing time last year. So how do you stack this safety competition right now?
If it was up to me, the safety that I would like to see is not on the roster yet, and that's Justin Simmons. But yeah, I think Justin's holding out for the most money as possible, and the Eagles are their whole thing. But it's one of those things I think it's going to have to. I really think it's going to come down to Makuba, and if that shoulder holds up, he's good to go, and how well he picks up that whole entire defense. Because behind, and I remember Fangio saying this beforehand, besides middle linebacker is the toughest one to pick up in the system. The second one is safety because of all the assignments, the matches, and everything that have you. That is extremely tough for a rookie, and that's what I want to see how well he does. That's what I really want to see him on the field and see what he can do in order to, in terms of that as well too, against a different offense, what have you. And that's what I want to see what happens this week coming up. So I think it's Makuba's job to lose. I think Brown's definitely going to get some looks, but the problem is he gets injured a lot. Like he's hurt. So I'm wondering, like, it's a bad thing. I personally would go after Justin Simmons, see if you hold out and wait him. And then we've seen him beforehand. He knows the system already. He's worked with Vic beforehand. It's not like he needs like a whole thing to ramp up to get ready. You can do the same thing like they did when they got C.J. Gardner-Johnson the first time. And just you use that time between the third preseason game into week one just to get him ready and throw him in there.
All right, so before I let you go, because you brought up Justin Simmons, so I'm going to give you three scenarios, all right? You tell me, based on what you know about the Eagles, which do you think is a more likely, not you predicting what's going to happen, what you think is more likely. I just want to clear it out so nobody thinks you're reporting on anything, okay, Chris?
Right, yeah, definitely not reporting that. No
report. No, it's not a report.
No,
this is a conjecture with reasonable, based on what you understand about the Eagles, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it more likely that Justin Simmons is signed before the end of the month, Asante Samuel Jr. is signed for the end of the month, or that Howie makes a trade by the end of the month?
I think it's more of a trade. I think it's more of a trade. If I had to go somewhere, it's going to be for a player that they probably are going to cut and try to bring in and try to tinker around with it. Because I don't foresee them really just looking at their history or anything. I think they roll with what they have on the roster. They see it, let it roll for a couple of weeks, and if it's just really, really bad, then they'll go out and try to trade for somebody else as well too. Or maybe sign Simmons if he's still available to prorate his contract and bring him up that way. That's the way I think. Asante Samuel Jr., I just don't see that happening here. I liked him as a player personally. I liked him coming out of college, but I think you're looking more at see who's about to be cut, veteran, what have you. See who's about to be cut. Maybe quote unquote stash him on the practice squad for week one and bring him in week two. I think that would be the scenario if I had to guess what would happen before they would sign Justin Simmons outright. But I think that's the worst one. But that's what I think would happen.
For more coverage of the Eagles at training camp, give him a follow on Twitter, X, and Instagram at C. Franklin News. Of course, all of his coverage is at NJ.com. NJ Advanced Media, Eagles and NFL writer and reporter Chris Franklin joined us here on Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Chris, great stuff as always. Appreciate you jumping on. We'll talk soon.
Hey, talk schools, Dave. Thanks very much.